Hello traders, we're halfway through the trading day on Wednesday, May 10th. Let's take a look at our last picks. Let's do some market analysis and then let's find a couple of new picks. SHOP, I did my last video Sunday evening. Very nice pick. You can see how the stock is continuing to push higher. That would have been your first opportunity Monday morning to get long this stock. Really nice head of steam. We'll go into the 5-minute chart. As I'd mentioned to you, you really have got to be watching what the market's doing. So if the market looks like it's fairly bullish and the stock continues to power higher, this is exactly what we want. This is the opening from Monday, May 8th, and you can see how the stock continued to grind higher. Orange line above zero. Here, it dips below zero. Well, that's where you want to take your gains. You've got a little bit of an opportunity late in the day, right in here, to get long that stock. Really nice. We can overlay to see what the S&P 500 did on that particular day. So we're going to click that, and now you'll be able to see what happened on Monday. And here you can see market down, 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 Monday morning. Market is the gray line, stock up, up, up. Remember, that is exactly the pattern that I highlighted in the video that I produced Sunday. I told you to watch for exactly that pattern. When the market is down, we want to see the stock flat to slightly higher. As soon as the market finds support, whoosh, see you later. Very nice pick. I also had DKNG. We can put that up. That was a secondary pick. And the stock is kind of waffling around, but I had also mentioned this. Similar to what we saw in Eli Lilly, let's zoom out and take a look at that daily chart. I still like DKNG. When the stock makes a big move and it has a breakout post earnings, you're going to oftentimes see the stock stall for a little bit. And the reason for that is there's your big gap up post earnings, very nice breakout. I still like DKNG. I think it's going to be a nice pick, but you've got profit takers who are selling the stock after a gap up like that, and it takes time for the stock to digest those gains. In time, what happens is that those sellers, those profit takers, are exhausted. Plus, when they start unloading some of their stock, they see there's always a buyer there. There's always a buyer there. Always a buyer there. Maybe I should hold off on my selling because the stock could go higher and I could get a better price. The buyers, on the other hand, are meeting that selling pressure and hoping that there's a lot more because they want to accumulate the stock. Ultimately, what ends up happening is you get the big breakout, you get a compression, those gains are digested, buyers start to get more aggressive, and then whoosh, you get your next leg higher. So you've got to be patient on some of these picks. DKNG, I still like it. I still think it's going to do well. The same actually holds true on the downside. IP was a stock that I highlighted last week as a short. You can see there's your post earnings gap. I think I highlighted it right in here. And I was like, this one's kind of a doggy pick. Well, no, not really. I told you I still like that short. It just took a little extra time. But this was a really nice technical breakdown. And we had all of the trend line breaches that we also look for. I'm going to put up our automated trend lines, and there you can see where they can come into play. That is a nice low plus breakdown post earnings, some low minus trend lines breached. Folks, that's what we do. Let's take a look at SHOP. Beautiful breakouts. You can see where all the trend lines came into play. That was a great high minus, high plus trend lines all over the place. Heavy volume. Love it. We can also search for these breakouts. Let's put DKNG up. Then let's take a look at our bearish pick. And here we've got to zoom out a little bit. But if we do that, you can see that is a significant breakout through that long-term trend line. The bearish pick that I gave you was ETSY. And that one, we've got kind of a similar situation. First of all, we've got this nice breakdown right here in the low minus trend line. So yes, the stock is pushing through this. We'll go into the zoom in here and we'll take a closer look at it. This is a nice breakdown. We haven't seen the follow through in the stock yet, but I believe that the stock is going to continue to push lower. So not a great pick on Etsy. It just needs some time. It's not a bad pick. I still think this stock is going to continue to drift lower. Let's take a look at the market and see what that's doing. You're going to notice some pop-ups here. We'll take a look at those in a second. I'm currently testing a new feature. We are going to have some incredible alert features based on almost any variable and any time frame that you'd like to set the alert on. So I'm not going to get into great discussion on it, but we'll take a look at a couple of these alerts and see what they're telling us right now. Market, we have this nice big gap up today, and then 3 stacked red candles. This tells us that there's selling pressure. 2 really nice long green candles that retrace most of this move. Well, what does that tell us? Well, it's coming on heavy volume, so it tells us buyers and sellers are paired off. This early gap up was going to be vulnerable. It came after a slightly lower than expected CPI. 4.9 was the CPI, 5 is what was expected, and we get this big 25-point S&P rally. I told members today, don't believe it. I think we're going to reverse this right away. And that's exactly what happened. It didn't take us but about 20 minutes to reverse those gains. So yes, there is downside selling pressure. And we can see that this bounce, wham, was instantly repelled as well, and we took out the low from the previous day with ease. Get a little bounce. Now we're starting to see some selling pressure, and you can see we have the 1OP indicator up here, and so it's showing us that there's going to be a little strength in here. Well, that culminates with this little bounce, and then this was telling us watch out for the next wave of selling. Sellers are going to have the ball. Right now we've got a little bit of a bullish cross, so what I'd be watching for here is a bounce. We've got some long tails right in here off of the low, and now we're going to be testing it. Let's see if this bullish cross is going to give us a signal that we move higher in here. Action in the last few days has been dismal. Let's go into a 15-minute chart so we can capture a few days. And you can see here, this blue line is what the average volume is. When it's below the 0 line, it's very, very light volume. Well, this thing is sagging like a telephone line. Not good volume at all. Look at the ranges. These ranges are so compressed, they are a third of the normal average true range. So there is nothing going on, folks. I'm sorry to say that. Now, fortunately, today we've got so many really good stocks moving, sustained moves as well. So there are plenty of opportunities in individual stocks. But as far as the market overall, if the FOMC, all the earnings that we had over the course of the last 2-3 weeks, and the jobs report last Friday couldn't move the needle, a CPI that's largely in line is not gonna move the needle either. We need some information to break us out of this tight trading range. The CPI was kind of our last big hope. By the way, a 4.9% inflation rate is still way the heck above the 2% target that the Fed has. The Fed has said, we're leaving the door open for additional rate hikes, people. Okay? Maybe we pause for one session, but if we don't like what we see, we're going to increase rates even more. Well, the market is pricing in a rate cut in the fourth quarter, and the Fed has said, not going to happen. Not based on anything we see right now. So you've got the ECB meeting this Thursday. They're going to raise 50 basis points. They're also talking about raising again in July. So you've got Europe still in tightening mode. 5% inflation, much hotter than expected. So there's a disconnect going on right now, and I think that surprise favors the downside. And if we take a look at the volume here, Very, very, very light volume in here. This is banking related. Fed comes in, they flood the market with money, liquidity's good. Okay, short sellers take some risk off, and we get this light volume rally, and then this compression near a horizontal resistance level. Not strong price action at all. One day we're up, the next day we're down, the next day we're up, the next day we're down. Very difficult environment to swing trade as well. Yes, you would think that you should be able to sell out of the money call spreads on weak stocks, sell out of the money bullish put spreads on strong stocks, take advantage of accelerated time decay. That seems like a good strategy. But in the background, we do have this looming issue with regional banks and the potential for this credit crisis to start spreading. And if that happens at any moment, no matter how nimble you think you are, if that happens, blam, you could get a 100-point S&P drop in a day. We haven't seen it in a while, but that's how quickly that type of news hits the market. So it's not a great environment for that type of strategy. We've also got the debt ceiling looming right now. If the politicians in DC can figure things out, and they only have a few sessions when both Senate and the House are in session between now and June, if they can come to terms, the market probably is going to try and lift off and get through this horizontal resistance. That is the only real bullish catalyst that I see right now. But if they continue to drag their feet, which they've been doing, we could also see a nice big market drop. The market will send those knuckleheads a message that you better get your act together and you better get it together soon. So could go either way. I don't want to be swing trading in here. I want to be day trading. I want to take advantage of the stocks that are setting up well, and then I want to wait for my intraday opportunities. So that's what we've been doing in our videos the last probably month and a half. It's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to use our searches, take a look at what's going on. So let's go into some of our alerts here. I just want to take a quick look. So Melco was a bearish alert, and that was set based on the M5 chart. And yes, stock is continuing to look weak. We had earnings before the open. Stock is drifting lower. Let's get that 5-minute chart up of the SPY so we can see what that's doing at the low of the day here. See if this 10P indicator provides any support in here. This is nice attack on that low of the day. Very organized, nice red candles. We got some retracement, some tails in here. And when we break this low, we want to see blam, blam, blam down on big volume. Well, right now, we're not getting the big volume. We had it earlier in the day. Now that volume is starting to wane. So we'll see what happens in here. BTU, let's take a look at that one. That was an alert that just came up. And see what it's doing. It's still down. So I'm going to ignore these alerts and I'm going to move this off screen and we can focus on some stocks that look good for us on a daily basis and that look good on a 5-minute basis. So let's go into breakout times 2 and see what we've got going here. I'm going to put the D1 chart back up. I'm going to put our trend lines up, and then let's take a look at a few stocks and see if we see anything that looks interesting to us. See, nice horizontal breakout, choppy, 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 choppy. So that has me a little bit cautious on a stock like this, but let's see where those longer term trend lines come into play. I've seen a lot of weak stocks starting to break out, and this is a weak stock. Look at that downtrend. A lot of weak stocks are starting to break out through these major downward sloping trend lines. This one's had a fair amount of time to build a base and to grind higher. So I kind of like this breakout. I mean, this is one MDB is the symbol, Mary David Boy. And that's a nice little breakout right in here. You can see right there, earnings on 6/7, so still a month away from releasing earnings. Not a bad breakout. You got a horizontal breakout and these high minus breakouts, and you've got a pretty decent little upward sloping trend line right here. So a wedge formation with a breakout to the upside. I like it. Is it the pick of the day? It could be. Don't have anything to really tell me that it's not going to be good, and we've got nice volume on it as well. It's not earnings related. Looks pretty good. I mean, gosh, if this is as bad as it gets, I've already got a decent looking pick right now. So take a look at other stocks that are currently coming up. And let's put up those major moving averages. Now, this is going to obscure the chart a little bit, but we need to see where they come into play too, because if we're starting to get through some of those major moving averages like we are here, you can see the 150-day, 200-day, all in here. Plus, we're breaking through this. Man, I'm kind of liking this. I am kind of liking this stock right here. All right, here's another tell. 5-minute basis. Tick, 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 down. That's what the market's doing. What's the stock doing? Huh. Holding the high of the day when the market pulls back. Volume remaining decent. Relative strength, orange line above zero, decent. It's a choppy stock, but hey, the market's been choppy today, but it has been working its way higher. Kind of like this one. Don't know much about the company, don't care. MDB. All right. Let's take a quick look and see what they do. They're in technology, database platforms. Okay. Looks pretty dang good to me. I kind of like the fact that it does not have earnings news either. There's another one. Big gap, preserving the high of the day, excellent volume, some relative strength in here while the market goes down. It's up near the high. Go into the D1 chart, and I'm using a breakout times 2. So this searches for these trend line breakouts that I've just shown you. And these are automated trend lines. You can see where they come into play. It's a nice longer term trend line. That is a compression breakout after earnings. That's the A right there after the close yesterday. Well, it's got a lot of really nice characteristics in it. When you have multiple trend lines coming into play and converging at one particular price point, that makes that price point even harder to get through. And when we do get through it, we don't want to mamby-pamby poke at it. We want to blow through it with long green candles on heavy volume. Well, an earnings report would certainly do that for us. Yeah, I kind of like this EXAS breakout. Looks pretty good. CRSP. Oh, this thing's off to the races. We saw this 2 days ago, earnings after the close, and that was just nonstop. Really, really nice stuff. And this was the tell here. Look at that long-term breakout. That is a very long-term trend line that goes all the way back to Jan 15, 2021, over 2 years ago. Cool. That connection point, that connection point. Yeah, that's a considerable breakout through all the major moving averages. It's had time to base. Yeah, CRSP was a nice one. ACAM, there's another one, steep downtrend, getting through these resistance levels. Not as crazy about this because it hasn't formed a base over as long a period of time, and still very choppy, very chunky. Snow, nice breakout there. I'm just going to stay zoomed out so that we can see where the longer term trend lines come into play, but that's a nice one. That is a really nice trend line breakout. See the wedge there, got a couple of high pluses in there. There's a high minus horizontal above the 200-day moving average. Nice stuff. Another long-term one, hasn't been off the low very long, but it has formed a pretty decent base in here. So this is also nice, DOOG. I'm not going to have to go very far here. I can see one coming up here, CRM. I highlighted that in my last video, and I said, yeah, you know what? This looks nice, but we want to get through this horizontal resistance. So guess what? We're through it. So that was actually pretty nice. Just gonna, CVNA was another one of those. We highlighted this in the chat room yesterday. Long-term trend lines being breached to the upside through those major moving averages. This one really got nailed hard, and now the stock is actually starting to bounce. It could have some nice upside as well. Put up that M5 chart. There you can see stock has been able to move higher when the market is moving down. Still pretty volatile stock. You can see that in the intraday moves, and it's important to zoom out on a 5-minute basis and to look at what the stock typically does, because most traders will come in and they'll go, it's making a new high of the day and it's breaking out through a D1 resistance. Oh my God, I gotta have it. If you just take a look back, you can see it's a choppy, volatile stock. It's going to give you plenty of opportunities to get long. Take a deep breath. Watch for those pullbacks, and our new alerts are going to help us do that. And the way that those alerts are going to work is when you get a stock like this on your radar, let's zoom in a little bit so we can take a closer look. And you go, hey, you know what? I'm not going to get overly excited about this thing. Yeah, it's got a nice move higher up in here, but tell me when it loses its relative strength and then regains it. So we want that 1OSI to go below 0. So we see the stock and it's breaking out early in the day and we go, I don't want to chase it. It's choppy stock. So let's put that alert out there. 1OSI is above 0 right now. Let me know if it goes below 0 and then it regains its relative strength. And it does right in here. And then you get your nice move higher. These alerts are going to be fantastic. Plus, we'll be able to set them across multiple time frames. And we'll have multiple variables that you can use with and or statements. So yes, we want it above the VWAP, and we want 1OSI to dip below 0 and then back above it, and then you can add any other conditions that you might want to have. So really looking forward to it. We're in the final stages of testing. Everything is looking very good. So what do we want to trade here? We've got a number of stocks that are actually setting up well. I like this SNOW chart. I also like the very first one that I saw. I mean, that is a nice dang chart. EXAS also looks like it could go. I'm going to go with MDB. Looks like a really good stock. Let me go into stock ER first real quick. Option liquidity is not bad. So it's above 0. So the stock's got some decent option liquidity as well. That is your long pick of the day. I've also given you a few others that you can take a look at. That CRSP looks good. SNOW looks good. EXAS looks like it could be another good one. CRM is breaking out to the upside. That looks pretty decent. Let's take a look at a couple of others. This is a dog, okay? This stock has sold off so hard that you do not need to be in here playing this little bounce. It's an earnings related bounce, but we want to see a much longer term base than that. And ideally, the stock is lifting off of that base. Well, why do we feel that way? Don't we want to buy low, Pete? Oh, this is a bullish explosion alert. Let's check that out. These explosion alerts are pretty cool. This is a takeover stock, so we're going to ignore this. You can see when you get a big run up in the stock and then it flatlines, there's nothing left there. This is a takeover. But these explosion alerts will help us catch these stocks right in here when they make that first big move. And we're looking for a candle that closes on its high. So we could take a look at it and you can see there's nothing here. The stock is just moving sideways because it's a done deal. So, and we will catch a number of those this year, but we're going to keep taking a look here. And I'm trying to finish my point that I was making was that there were a lot of stocks that look good, and Ring is not something that we need to consider because it is barely getting off the deck here. And there are plenty of sellers. So at any moment, if you try and swing this on the long side, especially below these major moving averages, whappa, whappa, whappa. It looked so good. Oh my gosh, there goes my plan to buy low and sell high. Well, it looks like I'm going to buy low and sell even lower and take a loss on it. Don't want to be in that camp. Let these dogs build a nice long base and then start moving higher off of that base, just like MDB did. Here you can see that low was from November 8th. So we've got about 5 months, 6 months worth of nice, positive, constructive price action. And the stock is above all those major moving averages. Now we got something that we can look at. We got that long-term D1 wedge that we're breaking out of. Love it all. So yes, let's take a look and see what we can find on the bearish side. And we're going to go into, let's use the same search, breakdown times 2. Let's see what we got there. So now we're going to switch gears, take a look at what we've got going on here. COHR, ooh, nasty breakdown through all of these trend lines. Earnings before the open, but you can see this is turning into a long green candle. That tells us that buyers came in and supported the stock on that drop. That's not what I'd like to see. I'd like to see it the other way, where it has a small little drop down on the open and it continues to sell off, forming a long red candle. That tells me that sellers are still engaged. PayPal, nasty little breakdown. Ooh, I like it. That is a nice little trend line breach right in there. We've got a low plus trend line breach, post earnings reaction. Lot of folks trading this in the chat room yesterday and hanging on to it today and trading this slide. PayPal could easily be my short of the day. Look at this nasty little thing here today. Definitely selling off with the market. Oh yeah, that is a big gap down. You see a big gap like that, the stock might compress for a day or two. It's the flip side of what I've been talking about when you have stocks that are breaking out through technical resistance levels, is you get that big gap. And initially, if you had some shorts in here, they're going to come in and they're going to take profits on that initial move and they're going to support the stock a little bit so it digests the gains, and then woof, there comes the next leg lower. Well, with stocks like IP, it took a little while for this next leg lower, but there was some news that caused these investors to bail on the stock and for shorts to come in. So this looks like a pretty dang good short to me. Let's zoom out and see if those trend lines come in. And this is why we have to zoom way out. Let's see if going to a different time frame corrects that downtrend line. This downtrend line is suspicious in here, came through these data points. We did have a bad data point in here in January on the NYSE, and I'm wondering if that's causing this, but disregard it. We've got these trend lines here. That is a major horizontal support level that's been breached on heavy volume. Looks like a good short to me. I think I missed a stock up here, PLNT. I like this one. This is nice. You can see it's a fairly choppy stock, makes some pretty big moves. This is a nice upward sloping trend line, and that is a severe crackdown. Get a little bit of a bounce, and here comes the next wave of selling. Let's zoom in on that, on that daily chart. Yeah, there's your initial move. It tries to bounce a little bit, and then the sellers return, and now it is through that low. And there you can see all the trend line breaches. 5-minute basis, we want to see it keep dropping. Oh yeah, it is. It's dropping with the market. Market currently took out that low right in there, so we're not getting that 1OP bounce. In fact, it looks like 1OP is just going to reverse and roll over. It already has, in fact. It barely even bounced. So it's rolling over and continuing to go lower. So market looks like we could be putting in a bearish trend day. Get your first wave, little bounce, get another little bounce, and now we're continuing to head lower. This is more organized selling, tighter little candles of a single color, organized, not the mixed candles like we had in here where you get a few long reds, few long greens, and then a mixture in here. This is getting pretty organized. So let's see what happens. Keep looking at our short list here. I've already got one couple of them I like. PLNT I like that CTLT, PayPal. It's already sold off a lot. Does it still have some more downside to it? Perhaps. Just going to keep taking a look for anything else that looks good. TSN, that's just nasty stuff. Big breakdown there and just no relief. It just continuing to march lower. You can see those are some low minus trend lines that are breached to the downside. Yeah, this stock's going to definitely have some continued downward momentum. USB, bank stock. Bank stocks are right now one of the big problems that we have because there's the possibility of a credit concern. And this is MOS. There's another one of those long candles from January 24th that makes it look like it was breached, but it wasn't. So this is a nice horizontal support level that's been breached to the downside. MOS. Another choppy stock, but yeah, pretty decent downward price action. PTON, I know I've highlighted that recently. There's IP. So we're going to stick with one of the stocks that's up toward the top of the list. And I'm going to zero in here and we're going to have a pick. I like that PLNT breakdown though. And that right now is what I'm leaning towards. So nice multiple breakdowns. When you get these breakdowns with these long red candles, these trend lines really help you identify these price points, very important price points where once breached, the move absolutely accelerates. Relative weakness here. This is GDS. Stock on its low. Not able to quite take out the low. I'd like to see a stock really breaking below this low with the S&Ps trending lower. All right, well, let's make a decision here. Man, that is a nasty little stock there. I'm going to go with PLNT because it's got so much room in here. And this is actually a little tiny bearish flag formation. So there's your flagpole on that earnings announcement all the way from up here. There's a tiny little upward sloping trend line in here where for a few days it made higher lows and then blam, see you later. Yeah, I like that. I think PLNT is going to be your short of the day. Not, I think. It is going to be your short of the day. I think PayPal works. I think COHR is a stock that you can. That one I would ignore because of this big bounce. It could come right back up into this range. So you don't want to see big bounces like that because that just tells you that it was a knee-jerk overreaction and it could come right back up. But PayPal also looks really weak in here. But I'm only going to give you one short to look at today. And that short is going to be PLNT. M as in Mary, D as in David, B as in boy, MDB. That is your long pick of the day. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'm going to try and do my videos on Wednesdays. The only exception would be if there's an FOMC meeting, and that gives that Wednesday trade some time to work out before I do my Sunday night video. And so we've got nice spacing during the week. So look for videos on Wednesday and Sunday. Thanks so much. Trade well. Thank you for watching this YouTube video. I'm Pete Stolzers and I'm going to keep the trade ideas coming along with lots of education, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and please turn on your notifications so that you never miss another trade. If you like the content, please give it a thumbs up. I've loaded 2 other videos that I think you're really going to enjoy. Stay tuned. We'll see you soon.